Good, whatever time it is, everybody. Um, so wasn't fully planning on streaming today, but well, you know how it is. Well, probably not, but I just felt like streaming anyways. Specifically, um, because I got a air of inspiration last night about exactly how I wanted the first lore episode to go. Uh, I kind of wound up with this. I kind of slapped today's lesson together like an hour ago, uh, and essentially, we're going to be going over basically the overall overview of this universe, specifically the eras and the two major systems. So the you know what? Okay. Um, yeah, you can clearly tell that my thoughts aren't fully fleshed out, but you know what? That doesn't matter because you know, um, I have everything else planned out mostly. I'm totally not just winging everything off the. You know what? Okay, so uh, this is my original universe. Everything that we're about to go over is part of a story. Is part of the universe that uh, I'm writing a story around. Uh, there's a lot to it. Uh, the story I'm currently writing actually takes place in the. Okay. Uh, sorry. Um. So basically, what I want to do with this universe is I want to make it. Well, first off, I want to tell my original story. Uh, there's certain themes and characters that I want to explore, and essentially I'm creating the universe around that. But while I'm creating this universe, I also want to be able to have the tools and the resources necessary so if I do want to branch off and tell another type of story, not directly connected to my main story, I can. Hence why I'm creating my own universe. So let's say I feel like going into one of these eras and telling a story about an aristocrat who does X, Y, and Z. I can because I'm currently setting up these rules. Uh, so, with that out of the way, this is today's first lesson. And the lesson is the overview. This is basically going to be the roadmap for future lessons. We will be going into more of these topics in more detail later on, but this is just the overview. That way, you, the audience, slash my students, can get a better understanding of what we will be discussing. Of course, this list is not encompassing of all the topics. This is literally just the top crust, the baguette in the store that you see that you're going to go buy if it piques your interest. You'll see that major characters aren't listed on here, major events. These are literally just eras, and for the systems, we are only going to discuss the two main systems because there are a few other systems which we will briefly gloss over in a nice little infographic I made. So, with all of that out of the way, let's get into the eras. So, the first era is the new cycle. Ah! We have to switch over to the slidey thing. There we go. Okay, so the first era is the new cycle. Then the second is the magical expansion. Then you have the reign of demons, followed by. Let me adjust the music just a little bit. Okay, there we go. Then you have the reign of demons, followed by the Age of Mystic, the Scientific Magic era, the Crucible era, the Exodus era, the Empire building era, and the Absence era, which is the current era within the story. Uh, and then you have the two systems that we're going to be covering. You have cores, and then you have magic. So, let's get started. First off, we're covering two eras in one. The New Cycle era and the Magical Expansion era. During some of these eras will kind of run side by side, just in two different areas. In this case, these two happen essentially concurrently. So first off, you have the start of the cycle, or the universe is created. Basically, there is nothing. But suddenly, two gods appear. Well, three. But you know what? Let's just say gods appear. We're not going to be going into detail on these gods, but let's just say they do appear. So then, once these gods appear, the Big Bang occurs. This is a instance where a mass of energy all combined basically occurs in one single spot and rapidly expands, leaving a lot of primordial stuff that will eventually expand across what we consider the universe. In conjunction with this cosmic stuff expansion, you also have magic. Now, magic was not initially there at the second of the Big Bang. It more or less appeared in the second. And at this point, it is not expanding as quickly as the universe. It's a slow trickle. Over a long period of time, you have planets that start to form and stars that start to form, and eventually, on a few select planets, you have biological life that starts to take form. And during this period, magic starts to expand and starts to interact with the biological life. And through means that will be discussed later, proto-demons start to evolve from various species. Ooh, what does that mean? Well, we'll get into that later. So, you have proto-demons now, and once the first proto-demon becomes a fully formed demon, you have the Reign of Demons and the Age of Mystic eras. So, with these fully formed demons, they start to explore the greater universe, and they start to encounter other demons. And what happens at this point is very interesting. There are a few wars, of course, but you have demons that start to form their own societies, and the homeworld of Nyloth is created near Earth. But to us humans, Nyloth is actually Mars. Because in this universe, Mars is a constructed planet, solely for the use of demons. Now, as you have demons ruling their society on Mars, you have humans which have evolved at this point, but they are just in the early forms of their civilization era. So you have ancient kingdoms, not quite like the ones we know, but very similar, like ancient Babylonia, Egypt, Greece. During this era, human mystics, which are essentially proto-mages, use magic to influence the world. At this time, gods, or at the very least, what we consider gods, and bizarre creatures are common during this period. And these gods are ones that are very familiar to us in our history, such as Iris, Thor, and quite a few others. Basically, this was an excuse for me to be able to dive into real life lore, and mysticism. But there's a very good explanation for this within the series, which again we will not be getting into because that is its own uh, dedicated lore episode. So, the Age of Mystic and the Reign of Demons effectively comes to an end during an event called the. Hold on, let me pull up my notes really quick because I had a name for it. Let's see. Do, 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 do. Um. Do, 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 do. Ah, yes. This event that leads into the scientific magic era is known as the Unified Destruction. Essentially, overnight, over the span of 12 hours, every modern civilization, well, every current civilization on Earth was simultaneously wiped out, with all gods being immediately and efficiently killed. How this happened, no one knows. But overnight, everything everyone knew was gone. And so the scientific magic era started. Human society had to rebuild, and over this time of rebuilding, science that we start to know started to take shape, and the scientific method was established. And some wise people, well, some wise scholars, saw magic and thought, what if we applied the scientific method to magic? And so they started to study and learn more about magic and actually make it into its own field of science. This made it so that one could teach others about magic in a much more efficient way. And this is how the Mage Association was formed. During this period of scientific revolution, humans and demons finally encountered each other. And while the first few encounters were peaceful, certain tragic events occurred which caused the human-demon wars to occur. While the demons had the upper hand for a majority of the war, a certain mage came along and gave humanity the tools necessary to push back the demons. And through a great betrayal in the demon ranks, the demon race is mostly wiped out until the Great One is the only one who remains. And the Great One came to Earth and did battle with this Great Mage, and the Great Mage sealed the Great One away, bringing a new era. The era of the Crucible. The Crucible is an event where a group of mages do battle, and they more or less take in the magic and mana of their opponents to be able to assist in keeping the Great One sealed away. Through these contests, they became perverted. Originally, they were just mere contests of feats, where the losers would willingly give the winner their mana. But over the ages, these competitions turned bloody into violent battles, which kept on scaling throughout the years. Until a city was destroyed. The world that was evolving through scientific means, slowly starting to phase out the need of magic, started to crack down on the magic community as they saw the true and devastating power that mages held. Then, either through malicious intent or through just pure accident, mages participating in the Crucible caused a world war, which brought massive ruin to the planet Earth. Once the dust settled and the countries at the time realized what was going on, they established the Hunter Association with the goal of hunting down any self-proclaimed mages and ensuring that more devastation will not continue. However, despite the Mage Association's best efforts and the world as a whole's efforts to stop more tragedies from occurring, during the 1995 Crucible, the landmass of North America is entirely wiped out. No one knows exactly what happened. All that we know is that the Crucible was involved in mages. Mages finally crossed the line. So instead of just merely hunting down mages, all magic has been made illegal. And then you have the great event where the Great One finally breaks out of their confinement, but is defeated by the mage, Artorias Tempest. But the battle had massive consequences, as the Earth began to slowly die. Humanity would have 50 years before the Earth would die. So, that brings us into the Exodus era and the Empire building era. At this time, two new entities were founded, Arc and Aura, both magical based, but both do their own unique things to magic. Artorias establishes the Holy Empire of the Eternal Light and leaves Earth. They are powered by Aura, a faith-based type of magic. Corporations rush to use Arc, a energy source that converts magic into a highly potent energy source, and they use this new energy source to develop and utilize powerful technologies so they can leave Earth. And once the last human is off of Earth, Earth dies a slow and quiet death, bearing just as much life as its very moon. As at this time, the Empire was largely unseen as they were traveling through great speeds through the universe to a specific spot. Meanwhile, various corporations established their own colonies and were largely disorganized as they spread throughout the local galaxy. Then, unexpectedly, cyber dragons were encountered, thus starting the Draconic Wars. The Holy Empire suddenly appeared, and it was a three-way battle, though the corporations and the Empire were working together to hold off the dragons. However, as the Empire was able to hold off on their own, that's all they could do, hold off the dragons, because there was not a great enough offensive capability, thanks to the fact that the corporations were largely unorganized and weak. But eventually, the Arc Alliance is formed, where these corporations all came together and pooled their resources and scientific and technological capabilities. And eventually, just enough offensive capability was given to where the Empire could defend their borders as the Alliance went in and finished off the draconic threat, with the dragons now wiped out from the universe. The Alliance and Empire start to greatly expand their territories. And as the territorial expansion occurs, minor conflicts between the two entities start to take place. Though, unexpectedly, these are very much controlled encounters. And a certain area of the universe known as the War Belt is established, where these two entities wage an endless war so that neither of their civilizations are fully affected by the effects of the war. And that leads us into the current era, the era of absence, where you have the Ark Alliance and the Holy Empire fighting a continuous and bloody war in a very small section of the universe. What happens next? What are the greater questions? Well, if you read my book, Cycle Saga Part 1, The Arc of the Mercenary, you can learn more about what the Absence Era entails. But needless to say, this will be a eventful era with very massive consequences for the universe as a whole. So, that is the overview for the overall timeline of this universe. Again, we will be going into more detail as to what exactly happens during that time, but now we will move on to the two main systems of this universe. The first system is cores. Now again, we will be going into more details about cores. This is just the top layer. So cores, to basically put it very simply, are a fundamental part of the universe. All sentient beings, from gods to ants, contain some form of core. Cores are for the most part intangible and is what many imagine the soul to be. Without a core, sentient life cannot exist. And if the core is destroyed, there is no way to bring a being back to life. Essentially, the core is one's soul. Where it is in the body, no one quite knows because it is unique to each and every single individual. If one were to have a feeling of having a very specific and important part of their body, that is more than likely where one's core is located. One cannot physically see a core, nor can they touch a core, but nonetheless, the core is there. So, what happens next? We will move on to... This is effectively the structure of of universal powers. Now, there's a lot here, and a lot of this, and well, most of these we will not be touching on at all, because they do honestly require their own lore videos. But what we will be focusing on is specifically magic. Though, of course, this is just an overview of magic, we will be giving magic its own intensive look at deep dive. So, as you can see, both destruction and creation both flow into magic, because magic can both create and destroy. It is all perfectly balanced, and one must give if they are to take. So, what exactly is magic in this universe's context? Well, magic is an unnatural, chaotic substance that appeared within the universe. This universe's rules were not originally intended to have magic. So, one could very well say that this universe was tainted by the sudden appearance of magic. And just like a parasite that is taking over a host, it is constantly expanding. Though, initially, not as fast as the universe, but as magic infected sentient life, it started to grow exponentially to the point where it is now growing just as fast as the universe itself does. Once a core is touched by magic, the being is forced to rely on magic for survival. Essentially, the core becomes magic, and without magic, the core will fade and the creature will die. At the current era of the story, all life within the universe has at least some form of magic within them, and everything is touched by magic. parents, so this is getting into a little bit of biology. So, every creature. Okay. So, magic within within sentient life is considered mana. Now, a creature can only hold up to a certain amount of mana. This is established by their core. So, as two parents mate, their combined total mana will be passed on to the offspring. So, the offspring's total mana will equal their parents' combined mana. Thus, whenever that creature dies, and their mana is released into the air, becoming magic, that is the root cause of the exponential growth of magic within the universe. This also leads to later generations having a vast store of mana compared to their ancestors. So, sentient creatures are able to channel mana through their core to cast spells. Now, in order to cast spells, they require runes, or essentially instructions on how exactly they want the mana to come out of their core. And in order for you to be able to cast any spells, a certain level of magic in an area has to be there for spells to be able to be cast. So, though we're not going to be going into the exact details, magic is measured in MLs, magic level. And a magic level is based off of what level spells can be cast. So, ML1 is level 1 magic spells. These are the smallest types of spells one can cast. And in the current era, all humans have at least 1 ML, so they can cast a level 1 spell, though this is not recommended, as if they were to cast a level 1 spell and they are not specifically trained in magic, and if they don't have enough mana, they will die. But we will get into that more in the magic section. But so, 1 ML. If you want to cast a 1 ML spell, the surrounding area must at least have 1 ML of magic for the spell to be successful. If you are trying to cast a ML9 spell in an area that has a level of 1 ML magic, the 9 ML spell will be greatly ineffective. Essentially will dissipate in the air, spreading its magic, and just be very, very weak. Now, on biologically dense planets, one does not have to worry about this, as these planets have a lot of magic on them. But if you were to go to a largely uninhabited planet, let's say a moon on a unexplored and uncharted part of the universe, then the magic levels might not even be at 1 ML. They might be so significantly low that absolutely no magic or spells can be cast. So, if you are to cast spells, make sure you carry your handy-dandy ML reader. Now, again, we will be going into more of the systems and everything later, but that is the overview of the magic system, and also just future topics in general. I hope you all will eventually tune in, because this is something that I am very much excited to share with all of you. Sorry if my thoughts didn't seem a little bit too put together. Again, I put this together like about an hour ago, and while I have a lot of this very much planned out and in detail, getting into small snippets to give these overviews was a little bit difficult, but the next episode, we will be the next few episodes, we will be going into the specific systems, because they will be necessary to at least have a firm grasp over, so we can start covering everything else. So, the next episode, we will be specifically covering cores, and what exactly are cores, and then we will start getting into the more interesting systems, such as magic, arc, and aura. So, until next time, oh wait, yes, I plan on having Thursdays be lore Thursdays, but for right now, until things calm down a bit, we're going to be having a lore Thursday every other week. So, no lore Thursday next week, but the week after that, there will be a lore Thursday. So, hopefully, you all turn in and we can take it from there. I hope you all enjoyed today's lesson. It was very great seeing all of you. I hope you all take care and stay safe in that crazy universe. All right, bye bye!